Okay, good evening, Miss. My name is Joanne, and these are my group members.
Hi, I'm Alya.
Hi, I'm Esther here.
Hi, Miss. I'm Tharshini here.
Thank you, Miss, for participating in our interview today. Can we begin?
Yes.
First, may we know your name, please?
So my full name is Tazarani binti Sudar.
Thank you. Which school did you do your internship?
I did my internship at SMK Jinjalong for 4 months.
I see. Thank you for sharing. All right, let's move on to Alya.
Okay, so I have a few general questions on teaching materials that I like to go through. The first question is, what factors do you consider when selecting teaching materials for your students?
The most important factor is engagement, since my students live in a rural area and aren't really exposed much to English. So I look for materials that are eye-catching, like TikTok videos or colorful slides. I also consider if the material is too text-heavy, since I prefer things that are visual.
Thank you for sharing that. On a related note, how do you ensure that the materials match students' proficiency level?
Okay, so I look at the vocab used in the material. If it's too complex, I make it easier. I also use digital tools like Kahoot because the short questions and the competitive nature allow students of every levels to try without feeling pressured by long, difficult paragraphs.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Esther.
Okay, Miss, now we will move into the skills. The first skills is about grammar. So my first question for you is, what kind of materials do you usually use to teach grammar in your classroom, and why do you choose that material?
I usually use projector slides and image to teach grammar. I choose this material because my students respond much better to visuals than textbook. Showing a picture of an action while teaching grammar helps them understand the meaning without needing a long explanation.
Okay, thank you, Miss. Move on to the second question. Do you usually use any authentic materials such as newspaper, videos, online article to teach grammar? If yes, how do you use them, and what level of students are they suitable for?
So for authentic materials, like you just mentioned, one of them is newspaper. I rarely use newspaper because the language is too difficult for my Form 1 and Form 2 students. However, I do use TikTok videos and YouTube clips. These are my authentic material because they show how people really talk. I use them to show grammar like spotting E's or R in a video caption.
Okay, Miss. The last question from me is, in your opinion, what are the challenges you face when using authentic materials to teach grammar, and how do you overcome them?
The biggest challenge is the limited vocabulary of my students. Uh, Authentic materials can be scary for them, so I overcome this by being a very supportive teacher. So I provide a lot of support, which means I will translate key terms when necessary and use images to explain the words that they don't know yet.
Okay, Miss, that's all from me. I will pass it to Alya.
So moving on to reading skills. My first question is, do you prefer traditional materials such as textbook, newspapers, and worksheets, or digital material for teaching reading?
I prefer digital materials like slides and videos because in a rural area, students aren't always exposed to English at home. So, digital tools make the lesson more exciting and modern for them compared to just a textbook.
Okay, so how do these materials help students enhance their comprehension and understanding of the text used?
Mm, Images and videos, they provide context. If they don't know a word, the picture on the slide help them guess the meanings. So this builds their confidence in understanding the text without constantly checking a dictionary or keep asking me what is the meaning of this word or that word. So they can just use their brain to just figure out what they mean.
Okay, so how does the teaching materials affect students' engagement? Can you explain your
Digital
students' feedback?
Digital tools like Kahoot or short clips increase engagement significantly because my students have told me that they find the lessons less scary when they are visuals. They go from being passive to actually participating in the games because, like I mentioned before, I used to taught in rural school areas. So for us, Kahoot game are like just a part of our daily lesson, but for them is a new thing for them to discover. So that makes the thing look more exciting and fun.
Okay, so thank you for your wisdom. Uh, I pass these questions to Joanne.
Okay, now let's move on to writing skills. My first question will be what teaching materials do you usually use to help students develop their writing skills in your English class?
For writing is a tricky part. It's like the hardest skill to teach my students. So I have to use projectors to show sentence frames and images. Since my students are in the lower proficiency side, I provide a lot of writing scaffolds or templates on slide to help them start their sentences. So without the writing scaffolds, they just won't start writing their sentences.
All right, thank you, Miss. The second question will be how do these teaching materials help students to organize their ideas and improve their writing skills?
I use uh I use graphic organizers on the projector. We brainstorm ideas as a class first because they are shy and have a limited vocabulary. So seeing the ideas organized visually helps them to put their thoughts into a coherent order.
If you don't mind, can you give me some examples on how the graphic works?
Graphic organizers, like I have mentioned before, I will make a slides. So at the slides, I will put like once like a sentence, full sentence. I will make the in the middle of the sentence is empty. So they have to brainstorm what they can put. But usually the sentence that I take out is usually they can create on their own. Like for example, if they decided to make for examples, the essay is about writing a letter about giving a gift recommendation. So it's up to them if they want to recommend their friend giving keyboard or books or handbags or outfits. So I will take out for examples, I would prefer if you like empty this because it will empty like that.
All right, I see. The last question from me will be do you prefer using traditional writing materials like textbook, worksheets, and writing exercises, or more into digital materials like online tools or apps when teaching writing, and which type helps your students the most they are interested in?
I like a mix of them, traditional and digitals, but digital tools help most with the confidence because I know my students like to scroll on TikTok for hours and hours. So when I show a TikTok video, especially TikTok video, they have something to write about. It makes them more interesting because the topic feels relevant and very close to their lives, which makes them less afraid to try writing and can just put themselves in the essay.
All right, thank you, Miss. That's all from me. Moving on to Tashini.
Hi, Miss. Hope you're having a good day. So I have a few questions for you. My first question will be, what materials do you usually use to teach speaking skills?
For speaking skills, I use images and short videos to prompt them to speak. I also combine speaking with writing and listening worksheets so they have a script or a reference to look at because they are not really used to speak in full English, so they need to write a script for something so they can refer to.
Okay, and my second question will be, how do you use these materials during your speaking lesson?
Um, I never do speaking only activities because my students are very passive. I usually have them write down a few points they can discuss with their partners and then use those notes to share their ideas with a partner, or if they are feeling bold they can share to the whole class. And this like process act as a safety net for them.
Can you give me like one example activity that you use, and how do you evaluate them based on the activity that you given for the speaking skill?
So okay, for example, so if the topic that I'm going to teach them is about their hobbies, I will give them questions. Obviously, they are going to do it in pairs. Questions like, what is your hobby and what do you like about the hobby? Why does this hobby fulfill you? And will do this hobby as a job. So during their like brainstorming processes, they will write down in sentence form. Yeah, they can like exchange ideas with their partners. So or if they're not confident with their partner's ideas, they can just raise up their hands or ask for my assistance. So I will give them like maybe around to so example, if the class is a 30 minutes class, I will give them like 5 to 10 minutes for them to brainstorm their ideas. They are free to like hold the paper while reading them the answer because I just want participation from my students. So for yeah, for example, the first question is what is your hobby? And they will just say, oh, my hobby is playing games. And then I will ask them why, and they will just read off from their script. So from the activity, I also combine writing skills. Like I mentioned before, I will always combine speaking with something else, so I can like kill two birds with one stones.
So it's basically when you're conducting a speaking skill in your lesson, it always gotta be mix of skills, not just focus on one skill, is it?
Yes.
Okay. My third question, how do these materials help the students to improve their speaking skill in daily real life?
Mm, mm. These materials help them overcome their fear of making mistakes because having a visual or written sentence on their face gives them the vocabulary they need to actually produce sounds and sentences, because since they are really not used to speak English, they need something, like I said before, like a safety net. So if I keep on doing these exercises, they will like maybe like in the a few session they will still need to use like the script that I mentioned, and then if from the exercises they will slowly build their confidence since they already know what sentences they are going to to say, and then like over time they will no longer need the script because they're already used to speaking the sentence. So my main goal of this activity is just to make them used to speak in English. I never punish my students if they speak the word wrongly or use a grammar. All I want for them is to like have a confidence in speaking in full English. So if, for example, if their friends making fun of them, I will quickly like not really punish, but like well, you can say punish because I don't want them to like link like, oh, whenever I speak English someone is going to make fun of me, so why I bother trying. So that's why I will dare to make sure that my students will feel safe to speak English, because I can certain that when once the class is over, they will start using their mother tongue, which are Malay, Tamil, or Mandarin.
Okay, that's great to know. Actually, my last question, it probably won't be last, but my last question, what challenges do you face when teaching speaking skills and how do you overcome it?
My main challenge is probably the rural location, because these students don't really see a need for English. So I have to overcome this by using relatable content like TikTok, Instagram, any any other social medias that they use in part of their daily life. I also act that as a constant support, giving them the words they miss so the conversation doesn't stop. Not only that, I also like this is not a formal word, but I also use like meme to make my to make me like less of a teacher, more a little bit like not a friend but like a sister, because I understand that as a teacher I have this like boundary with my students, so it makes it harder for my students to open up. So by using memes, they something that they like, it will make them I find that the success rate is quite high when I integrate meme in my lesson, because my students went from being sleepy to then getting excited because I actually know like their inside joke or humor. So it makes me a little bit more like relatable and less scary from their usual teachers.
So for the speaking skill in your class, you usually use the authentic materials that like you prefer using authentic materials than the non-authentic material, right?
Hmm.
Okay, that's all from me.
Okay.
Another question from me. After completing a lesson, do you typically assign homework or conduct quizzes to check whether students have understood the material?
I never give my student homework because I know they will not do their homework. But before I end my lessons, I will ask them like a few questions just to make sure that they just have an idea what we just learned today.
My last question is that, as a practical teacher, what advice would you give to TESOL students about the ideal teaching methods for English lessons?
The ideal, I cannot say like if you do this, it will be successful because some of you will go to different schools. I can say that geographical locations is the one thing that you need to take into account because like I said, my biggest obstacles is my students are mostly from rural areas, so they aren't really used to with the 21st century learning. So for my advice, if you're going to a schools that center in the city area, I will like advise you to use more 21st century learning because they may have been exposed to it. So if you, yeah, if you can, s- so so yeah, it's more suitable for students that come from a city to use 21st learning century. But for practical teachers that are going to station in rural areas, I suggest them you introduce the lessons like as a baby steps. Like for example, I use Kahoot because it's actually easy to use. And then from that, I will integrate like gallery walk, presentation. Presentation would be the last since it's like presentation for my students is like a daunting thing to do because they have to go in front of the class and just say their ideas out loud, which they really hate. So yeah, for starters, I would just use Kahoot, gallery walk, just activities that don't require them to like speak alone in front of the class out loud. They are more comfortable with their friends. And also back to the schools that are centered around the city, I really, really encourage you guys to use 21st learning century because I believe that these students are more in the moderate and higher English skill proficiency because when I like share my experience with my other practical teachers, their feedback are more active, they are more like willing to participate rather than my students who are more like shy and passive. And then my next advice is try to like have like to know when is the time to be friendly and when is the time to be strict, because if you are too friendly, then your students will take advantage of you because they know that you're young and your age gap is not that huge compared to your senior teachers. But you cannot be too strict because then whenever you're trying to conduct a project or anything requires like anything presentation, they will not like cooperate because they are afraid that you will scold them for making a mistakes.
Okay, so my actual last question is that do you encourage your students to use dictionary?
Um, uh, this is like probably a hot take. I don't encourage my students to use dictionary because, as we all know, dictionary is very thick and heavy. So I doubt that they carry their dictionary in their bags. And we all know we used to be a student, so we know how heavy our textbook is, and we have to carry them every single day. Then our shoulders will get hurt. So, for example, if they don't know the words, I'll encourage them to use context clues because whenever we use a sentence, we have attention. So, for example, um, the sentence I want to use is sincere. No, not sincere. Juxtaposition. For them, it's like a big word. For us, it's just something that very contrasts. So in a sentence, they can just like think and figure out what the juxtaposition means because usually if my students is a bookworm, they would like instantly like get what's the word meaning without having to look up in the dictionary. So whenever I ask my students to read a passage in their book text, uh I will not like directly tell them what the word means. So I have to like encourage them to think first what like a general idea what does the word means. So because I want them to not like to be dependent on the teacher and have them think for themselves.
Okay, thank you so much for the information. Moving on to Esther.
Joanne, do you want to ask?
Yes, I have a quick one. Okay, Miss, I would like to ask you something. You said that you incorporate more of memes, Kahoot, and online tools, right? Do you think there are some cons to it? Like students tend to lose focus, get overstimulated, anything like that? And how do you overcome this?
Um there um there are not a lot of cons in terms of my experience, but I do tend to use meme as like on a special occasion. Like for example, for from week 1 to week 3, I use like a normal teaching session without the memes. But then on week 4, I will integrate the meme or Kahoot thing to make my student feel a bit refreshed because I don't want to use the meme like every time I use my lesson because it will feel like less special, and then my student will eventually get bored of it or just like view the English subject is a thing that not to be taken seriously because we know that memes are just a silly little thing of the internet culture.
Okay, thank you, Miss. Now move on to Esther.
Okay, Miss, we come to the end of the section. So before we ending our section, we would like to ask for your suggestion and recommendation on how we can improvise our teaching materials based on our skills, which is grammar, reading, writing, and speaking, according to secondary school.
According to secondary school, so for example, you just station to your school, um, and my advice is to first get to know your students. So for me, I like them to give a piece of paper to every of my students, and then just like have them to tell them about themselves, and from them and then from that we can actually assess their just only like writing. For example, like for average class, there are like 40 students, right? So when you receive like the 40 small cards that I just give to my students, from there I can assess like these students in this level of English proficiency, while the students are on the lower side. And then on your second day, I will give them like a quick test. My favorite one is to a spelling bee, because by using the spelling bee, I can test their their listening skills. I want to see like how much can they understand when I speak English. And and the last part is the thing that my students really does not like, which I have them to stand up and like speak, not not like complex, just as like what's their full name, hobby. Like I know that on the first day I asked them to write about themselves, but for this section I just want to see their speaking levels. So from that I will have my notes. Usually your mentor teacher will give you like a list, a list of your students' name, and from that session where I ask them to like tell about themselves, I will like jot down their proficiencies. So from just that simple assessment, I can like curate my lesson based on their levels. For example, this class, I will like because every class is different, right? So for this specific class, I will use this type of lesson. So, but for this class, they require a lot of scaffolding, because since they are like their feedback or reaction are quite bit different from the first one, but the second class is like just like in the middle of it.
All right. Thank you for your time, Means. This is the end of our section. Thank you for fulfilling our questions and fulfilling our question with good answers. It's really useful for us. Thank you, Miss.
Okay,
Thank you,
I'm
Miss.
glad.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Miss.
Miss.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.